Hey, Mama of three. So I was kind of looking online and apparently I'm subscribed to like everything and anything. So I get pop-ups of old cases, new cases that are being solved. Hey, yes, Taylor. And I don't know, this one here, I've always been pissed off and really concerned when it comes to the Highway of Tears because I feel that this could have been prevented a long time ago. I mean, we're talking these missing women and murdered women. This has been happening since this like late 70s, right? And they literally was it 2017 they finally put a means of transportation for these people. Hey, cool gamer. I mean that really pissed me off. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, people have been missing and being murdered since the 70s, and you know it's indigenous women. And you took as long as 2017 to put what is it even in there? Is it a bus stop? Is it a cab company? Like what is there for travel? I mean, it makes me so angry. And then so I don't know, I got a notification of this and it was about this guy named Cody. And apparently he's sentenced to life on 4 counts of first-degree murder. And he was a part of the Highway of Tears. Now I know I would imagine, and from what I've been reading, there is more than one killer out there. Hey, Shelly. And there's there's got to be more than one. You know what I mean? It's a very busy highway. Transports are in and out of there constantly. There's some sick people out there. It really makes me angry with Canada that it took them to 2017 to put some sort of means of transportation in there. And I still don't know what it is. Yeah, it has. Hey, how you doing, Chili? I love that book you got me, by the way. I've been reading it. Not all of it, but I've been reading it. And it's so, I don't know, I just love it. I think it's going to be good for me. That and go buy more crystals. All right, so I'm just going to get into this. And he is apparently one of Canada's youngest serial killers. See, I don't know why. So this says it was posted on September 16, 2014, and then it said it was last updated in 2014 in September, and yet for some reason it popped up. I have no idea. But it says I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. I'm just going to call him Cody. So Cody's sentenced to life on 4 counts of first-degree murder, and he is one of Canada's youngest serial killers. Wow. A jury in Prince George, British Columbia, has found Cody Allen Lechbakov, I think it is, guilty on 4 counts of first-degree murder. Lechbakov, shown here in a 2011 photo released by the RCMP, was 19 years old when the first of his victims died. ABC Supreme Court Justice in Prince George, British Columbia, has sentenced Cody Allen Lechbakov to life in prison with no parole for 25 years on 4 counts of first-degree murder. See, now I'm angry about that because no, he shouldn't even be out. We need the death penalty back. Something. And if not the death penalty, then no. No more of this crap. No more bullshit. If you're sentenced to 25 years, you serve your 25 years. No parole. There should be no parole whatsoever. Clearly, this guy's not going to change. The 24-year-old was convicted in the slayings of Lauren Dawn Leslie, Jill Stacy Sekchenko, Cynthia Frances Maz, and Natasha Lynn Montgomery, who died in 2009 and 2010. What are these old photos? Cody Allen Lejbakov, now 24, is depicted here in a more recent court sketch. I think CBC might be for the news. I'm not too sure. Oh, wow. Oh my God, I'm sitting on the same freaking couch. No way. Like right now I am. Hey, Arby. That's crazy. I have the same couch. I'm sitting on it. I love this couch. On Thursday, September 11, 2014, a jury found Lechbakov guilty of first-degree murder in the slayings of, left to right, Jill, which was 35. Wow, she doesn't even look 35. Satchenko. Cynthia Maz, which was 35. Natasha Montgomery, 23, and Lauren Leslie. I was gonna say she looks like a baby. She's 15. Oh my god. I think I don't believe that she's indigenous though, but these three look like it. Neil Mackenzie, a spokesman for BC's criminal justice branch, said it has been a long and challenging process for family members. Yeah, I bet. I feel horrible. I understand that the loss that they've suffered and that the victims of the crimes include the surviving family members and friends of the women and young women who lost their lives. Whoa, what's with all those women though? Hold on. My God, that's crazy. That's my couch. I look horrible, but I'm gonna turn my camera on for a minute. See my couch? I just find that very bizarre. Lekbakov was 19 when Jill Stacy Savchenko, 35, went missing. She was a mother of five. Oh my God. She was found dead in a gravel pit off Otway Road on the outskirts of Prince George in 2009. Natasha Lynn Montgomery was 23, originally from Queensnell, was reported missing in August 2010. Her body has not been found, but Crown Counsel said in court that several items, including shirts, shorts, bed sheets, a comforter, and an axe found in Legbakov's apartment tested positive for her DNA. What are beautiful eyes. The body of Natasha Montgomery has never been found. Yeah, they're all indigenous. Look at this. Her mother, Luann Montgomery, spoke outside the courthouse after Cody Legbakov was found guilty of first-degree murder and the death of her daughter. It's not over for me. I still don't have Natasha back, and I want to remind the public to keep an eye out for her remains, she said. I couldn't imagine. Not only do you know that your child is not with you anymore, but you don't even have their remains. I mean, that's enough to put me in the nut house. Robert Donovan, Natasha Montgomery's grandfather and step-grandmother, Marlene Donovan, were at the courthouse when Lechbakov was found guilty of her murder in court in Prince George. The Donovans said Montgomery's children haven't yet been told how their mother died. Someday they'll know the whole story. Wow. Cynthia Frances Mass, 35, went missing in September 2010. Her remains were found in LC Gun Park in a remote area of Prince George the following month. Judy Moss, she's the sister. She's the sister of the murder victim, Cynthia Moss, held a ceremonial feather, sorry, I can't get my words out, and thanked the carrier, Sakani First Nation, and the various drummers for support her and the other families through the trial of her sister's murderer. Mm. That's 10 women. Observers outside the courthouse in Prince George on September 11, 2014, held drums, feathers, posters, and photos of other women who have been murdered or who have gone missing in BC's north. The high-profile trial of Cody Lechbakov was not only difficult for the families, but also emotional for the community, which lives with constant reminders of the number of unsolved murders and disappearance of women, many of them vulnerable women, and many of them Aboriginal women in northern British Columbia. Yeah, it's still going on. People are still not found. This one, oh my God. Lauren Dawn Leslie, 15, was found dead on a remote logging road just off Highway 27, the Highway of Tears, near Vanderhoof, BC in November 2010. Lechbakov was arrested after an RCMP officer stopped him after he was spotted turning onto the highway from that unused logging road. The officer reported seeing a blood smear on Lechbakov's face and legs, and there was a pool of blood in his truck. That's just wow, it's all disgusting. A conservation officer suspecting poaching went to investigate the logging road and found Lauren Leslie's body. Investigators determined she had died only several hours before Lichvikov had been arrested. Wow. Doug Leslie thanked police for being vigilant, for arrested Lichvikov the night he killed his daughter, Lauren Leslie, and for bringing some closure to his family and to the families of the Lechvikovs' other victims through the investigation and legal process. I feel great with the verdict, he said. A jury in Prince George, British Columbia, has found Cody Allen Lechbakov guilty on 4 counts of first-degree murder. Yeah, and then it says no chance of parole for 25 years. That I don't understand that because Paul Bernardo, that is another one that pissed me off. So he got 25 years, no, or what was it? He got life, no chance parole whatsoever. Because of a new law that came out, it's now he's got 20, now that he's up for his 25 years, he was able to try and get parole after it was sentenced. No, I mean, so these families of what him and Carly did had to go and sit in front of him and tell the court that no, he doesn't need to be out. Like this man never changed. I mean, can you imagine? Hey, T King. He's 19. He was 19 in 2014. I don't know. I just found this. I didn't realize that one of the Highway of Tears killers was found. They don't have a lot of that on the internet. It's uh it's not right. Bull crap. Look at this. So the 20 okay, so it says here, I thought they said it was 19. It says a 24-year-old was convicted. Yeah, in 2009 and 2010. Look at this. Federal program focuses on root causes of missing murdered of Aboriginal women. Then it says Highway of Tears. Communities want fixes from BC. They should have had fixes years ago. So this bastard, 2009, 2010, okay? He's caught 4 murdered women and the Highway of Tears, and they're Aboriginal. And this is the year 2010, right? Then, and it still took them to 2017 to build some sort of means of transportation. That's some bullshit. The courtroom was packed for the sentencing hearing Tuesday as the Crown asked the serial killer to be placed on the National Sex Offender Registry. Well, I would hope so, because that one little girl was 15 years old. Right? Life is life. They should never get out. That's why it's either Canada needs to change their goddamn laws. Either they bring back the death penalty, or when they say life, it's life. No chance parole. That's it. That's all. He killed 4 women. One of them was 15 years old. The oldest was what, 35? So during sentencing, BC Supreme Court Justice Glenn Parrott pointed out the faint hope clause to Lechbakov, which could allow him to apply for parole after serving 15 years in prison. I just want to swear so bad and just be like F F F F F because wow. Their provision was repealed in 2011 for multiple murders, but the murders in this case were committed before the law was changed. Then what how come it changed for Bernardo then? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. I just bit my lip, as you can see, was the reaction to the comments about parole from Doug Leslie, the father of the 15-year-old girl, Lauren Leslie. 15. There she is right there. Somebody commented here and it says, I'm sure he's not ever going to see daylight, but just the way everything was put, the system still seems to lean to the criminal, said Leslie, who was seen with a bruised lip while standing outside the court because he was biting his lip, her father. Oh my God. That is, wow. That's why he said, I just bit my lip, as you can see, was the reaction to the comments. And then he was seen out with a bruised lip while standing outside the court. And Parrott told the court the case was one of the most difficult tasks, given the horrendous nature of the crime. An emotional Parrott, his voice cracking during sentencing, had to pause and reach for a glass of water before continuing. The British Columbia Supreme Court justice said there was no reasonable doubt as to who had murdered the victims. 3 women and 1 girl. Let's look at them one more time. Lechbakov was found guilty of first-degree murder in the slayings of Jill Suchchenko, 35, Cynthia Mass was 35, Natasha Montgomery, 23, and little Lauren Leslie was literally 15 years old. 15, 23, 35, 35. She looks familiar, like really familiar. Referencing Lechbakov's explanation that other men identified only as X, Y, and Z committed the actual murders, Parrott told the court. Nothing is ever his fault. There's no evidence. There's a ton of evidence, and it is his damn fault. Oh my, they need to bring back the death penalty. I really think that they should. If you're gonna take a life, you should absolutely have to lose yours. It's the same thing here in the state. Really? CBC has a few documentaries about the Highway of Tears. Hey, Teresa. Yes, I already did a little bit of the Highway of Tears. I could do it every day. I could do it every week because it needs to be known. Um, but I'm gonna check that out. I don't know if I played that one or not. But there is one on here. There's a channel on here and it on YouTube that I found, and it's called True Crime Canada. They actually have episodes and everything. And one of their episodes happens to be episode 6, Cody Lechbakov, Canada's teenage serial killer. And then it even shows caution, girls don't hitchhike on the Highway of Tears. But we could watch that right after, I thought. A mistake to limit the seriousness of the issue. Parrott also weighed in on calls for a national inquiry into the issue of missing and murdered women that would include both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal victims. He pointed out that the budget for the RCMP fuck. He pointed out for the RCMP's Highway of Tears investigation, looking into 18 murdered and missing women girls, has been reduced by 84%. How? Thank you. It's a mistake to limit the seriousness of this issue, said Parrott. Exactly. I agree with you. Really? 84% my ass. 2 of Lechbakov's victims, Maz and Montgomery, were from First Nation families. Yeah. A spokesman for BC's Criminal Justice Branch said the case has been a long and challenging one for family members. Well, of course it would be. Jill Stuchchenko was 35 when she became Lechbakov's first victim. The mother of 5 was found dead in a gravel pit off Otway Road on the outskirts of Prince George in 2009. Crown Counsel said that Stuchchenko died from blunt force trauma to the head. Natasha Montgomery, 23, originally from Quesnel, was reported missing in August 2010. Her body has not been found, but Crown Counsel said in court that several times, including shirts, shorts, bed sheets, a comforter, and an axe found in Lechbakov's apartment tested positive for her DNA. So I would say it's safe to say that this poor girl's not with us anymore. Cynthia Maas, 35, went missing in September 2010. Her remains were found in LC Gun Park, in a remote area of Prince George, the following month. Arrest came after 15-year-old kid. That's like really incredible. The 15-year-old who was killed and they got him that day. I mean, wow. Police only cracked those cases after the death of a 15-year-old girl from Fraser Lake who had met, oh no, Lechbakov online. The teen Lauren Leslie was found dead on a remote logging road just off Highway 27 near Vanderhoof, BC in November 2010. Lechbikov was arrested after an RCMP officer stopped him after he was spotted turning into the highway from the unused logging road. The officer reported seeing a blood smear on Lechbikov's face and legs, and there was a pool of blood in the truck. A conservation officer suspecting poaching went up the logging road to investigate and found Leslie's body. Investigators determined she had died only several hours before Lechbikov had been arrested. Lechbikov had pleaded guilty to 4 counts of second-degree murder in BC Supreme Court, testifying that he was present at the deaths of 3 women and the teenage girl, but that he did not commit the murders. Oh my God. That plea was not accepted by the court. I'm surprised it was or wasn't. Lechbikov, who was 19, was that yeah, okay, so he was 19. So he was 19 when the first murder took place, is among Canada's youngest serial killers, but is not the youngest on record. In 1957, oh God, I remember this guy. That's him. That's the ugh. 1957, 17-year-old Peter Woodcock was in prison for the rape and murder of 3 young children in Toronto. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity and spent the rest of his life behind bars, but still managed to kill another inmate before his own death. Yeah, that's the guy that, oh my God, I was talking about him. Sick son of a bitch. I just want to see what they have here. Apparently, supposedly, a federal program focuses on root causes of the missing murdered Aboriginal women. Highway of Tears communities want fixes, and yeah, they should and need to. Oh, okay. Apparently, I can't do anything with this. Well, that's stupid. Hey, Deb. Me too. Absolutely, me too. I know a lot of people don't agree with it. They don't agree with, using murder with someone else being murdered, but people know enough to know that not only is it against the law, it's inhumane. You don't go around killing people. You want to go around killing people? Guess what? Lose your life then. Like that stupid Peter Woodcock. He ended up changing his name to last name was Kruger, and they let him out, and he killed another guy, a passerby, and then he killed the inmate who escaped with him, or he got the inmate out on a day pass that was in there. I'm just like, what? He was at the Brockville Psychiatric Hospital, which is like 15-minute drive away from me. I've seen him too on the bus. Oh my God, that's the guy I was talking about, Teresa and Deb. Peter Woodcock. Wow. I'm gonna see if we can watch this without. Oh yeah, we should be able to. I just want to see what they have to say. Oh, okay. It did pop up. My bad. Federal program focuses on root causes of missing. Really? Wow. Initiative looks at root causes of violence despite the prime minister's stance that sociology not a factor. This was 2014. Oh, look at that. It says I want to live. This is heartbreaking. The 5.7 million Aboriginal Community Safety Development Contribution Program was created in 2010 as part of the government's larger initiative to deal with the issue. Then why are they still going missing? A July 8th draft report evaluating the program was largely positive about the program that works with remote First Nations communities to create collaborative safety plans and train and mobilize people to implement them. But the report emphasized the views expressed by several communities that it was difficult to make headway without an initial discussion of the root causes of the problem of violence. Yeah, Stephen Harper, remember that fool? Reports contradict Stephen Harper's view on Aboriginal women victims. Harper rebuffs renewed calls for murdered and missing women inquiry. Of course he does. And there's an opinion. Disturbing trend in debate on inquiry into missing murdered Aboriginal women. It went on to note that there's a scant focus by federal programs on victims of sexual abuse and to link to violence against women. The document was released to the Canadian press under the Access to Information Act. The department's Aboriginal Corrections Policy Unit is stated as promising that future workshops will support the communities in discussion more directly, the root causes of violence and potential solutions. Yeah, right. The stated logic of the program includes a focus on systemically identifying and addressing the root causes of victimization. Well, they clearly haven't found anything yet. A little over a month after the report was delivered, Stephen Harper declared his skepticism in focusing on the sociology behind the violence. He was responding to ongoing calls for public inquiry into the problem of missing and murdered Aboriginal women. I think we should not view this as a sociological phenomenon. We should view it as a crime, he said on August 21st. It is a crime against innocent people and it needs to be addressed as such. I totally agree, but what did he really do? Yeah, see, Public Safety Minister Stephen Blaney's office and the Prime Minister's office did not comment on the status of the program's objectives. Given the Prime Minister's statement, of course not, because they don't care. Apparently, Blaney has echoed Harper's framing of the missing and murdered Aboriginal women issue as one of law and order. As a father, I'm very proud to have supported more than 30 measures to keep our streets safer, including tougher sentencing for murder, sexual assault, and kidnapping. That's so untrue. We're in 2023 and this is still going on, and none of this has been fixed. It just makes me so mad. I'm gonna play this episode. I haven't watched it yet. I was waiting to watch with you guys. So I found this website. It's called True Crime Canada, sorry, and I guess it's an actual website. And yeah, they did. This is episode 6, Cody Lechbikoff, Canada's teenage serial killer. And it just says, Cody Allen Lechbikoff was convicted in 2014 of murdering 3 women and a teenage girl between 2009 and 2010. That's a short spree for 4 women. Oh my God. He is one of several serial killers linked to the Highway of Tears murders. Do you hear that? One. Lechbikoff is one of Canada's youngest serial killers and is currently serving a sentence of life with the possibility of parole after 25 years. And there's this fucker. I already did a thing on him. He's disgusting.
Welcome back. Today's story is about one of Canada's youngest serial killers named Cody Lechbikoff. He's sometimes referred to
Lechbikoff. Yep, got it wrong. I figured I did, but whatever. He doesn't deserve it.
As the youngest serial killer in the media, but that title actually goes to Peter Woodcock, who brutally murdered 3 children in Toronto.
I'm in awe that I met that guy. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to do a live on that. He always stared at me, and we picked him up from the damn bus that I took. They were letting psych patients on it. Let them do whatever the hell they want. And I was sitting there and I remember him staring at me. I was young. I didn't think anything of it until I read in the news that he had he was out of the psych ward. They let him out. And then he got his friend out in the psych ward somehow on a day pass. And they both went out and got a victim, a man, and they killed him. And then Woodcock killed the guy he got out of the psych. It was like, what? Yeah. I still can't believe that.
Toronto at the age of 17, but that's a story for another day. Cody's case is extremely unusual because he was so young when he first became a multiple murderer. But according to the Serial Killer Information Center, started by Dr. Micah Mode, who is a professor of psychology at Radford University, the average age for male serial killers is 27 and a half. There's usually an unstable childhood as well as an escalation period of crimes that involve taking more and more risks before their first kill. In Cody's case, there was none of this. He had a relatively normal home life and then went straight into killing at the age of 19. So this story takes place in the Netjako region of British Columbia, which begins in central British Columbia and continues up to the border of the Yukon Territory. The region contains thousands of lakes, and although it contains the second...
I just wanted to point out that as far as I know, because I haven't researched everything. There's so much on missing Indigenous women. It's not just Indigenous women though, it's also men. There's a woman on Reddit and she actually made a map, and all of these people that are missing or murdered, it is all from or in British Columbia. It all involves the Highway of Tears. Still to this day, the men are missing even more now. I mean, why is there no cameras? You think that would help. Yeah, there's a warning sign before to hitchhike, but that's it. Like I said, it took them to 2017 to put in some sort of means of transportation. And again, I still don't know what the hell that is because I looked and I can't find anything.
Largest land area, it has the smallest population of the regions in British Columbia, that accounts for only about 1% of British Columbia's entire population. The region has a growing tourism industry for those who love outdoor activities such as hiking, mountain biking, and camping.
Tammy.
One of the small towns in this region is Vanderhoof, which has a population of about 4,500 people. And the main industries within the community are forestry, agriculture, and mining. This case also involves an infamous Canadian highway, Highway 16, better known as the Highway of Tears. The Highway of Tears is a 725-kilometer stretch of Highway 16 between
Like, look at this thing.
Prince George and Prince Rupert, British Columbia, Canada, which has been the location of many murdered and missing Indigenous women beginning in 1970. The
And
highway
then,
is extremely remote, and even in the year 2022, there are still large parts of the highway that have absolutely no cell service. According to a
are you kidding
2021
me?
article
See what I mean? There's victims right there. I believe that's a man. Uh, yep, Lester Sampson. He went missing on August 25th. I don't know the year. I can barely read it. Disgusting. There's no cell service. Then fix the problem. That's not fixing the problem. If they just don't, nobody cares enough,
in the CBC,
obviously.
70% of Highway 16 already has some cell coverage, which means
That's good.
30% of that highway has zero cell phone reception, which is positively terrifying. However,
Yep.
the province of British Columbia has partnered with Ottawa, both contributing over $2 million for Rogers Communications to build 12 cell towers in the area with no cell service. There's a rough estimate, but no one can pinpoint exactly how many women have disappeared on this highway. According to the
Hundreds?
RCMP project ePANA, the number of victims is about 18, while Aboriginal
No.
organizations estimate that the number of missing and murdered women was higher than 40. To this date, multiple people have been convicted in cases related to the Highway of Tears. 3 serial killers are among those who have been charged: Brian Peter Arp, Edward Dennis Isaac, and today's case, Cody Lijabokoff. Cody Lijabokoff grew up in the small town of Fort St. James in northern British Columbia, about 10 hours from Vancouver. He came
Isn't that crazy? So there's 3 people that have been captured, put in prison for murdering indigenous women, right? And there's still more. And there's still more missing and murdered women out there that they have yet to find. That's insane.
from a loving, respectable family and was well liked amongst his peers. Cody excelled in sports. He played competitive minor hockey and was a member of his high school snowboarding team. And he enjoyed simple things in life such as hunting, fishing, and camping with friends and family. He was apparently well liked amongst his peers and showed no predisposition to violence. Shortly after graduating high school, Cody moved to Prince George, which is about 2 hours east of Fort St. James. He shared a house with 3 close friends who were all female. They were all close friends who grew up together in Fort St. James. The girls lived upstairs, and he had the basement level all to himself. Cody worked in the parts department at the local Ford dealership and spent a lot of his free time on a site called Nexopia, which is a Canadian social networking site that was created in 2003. The site is apparently kind of like MySpace. I personally have never heard of it up until I started researching this case. Apparently, it's still a thing, and there are over 395,000 members, although I'm not sure how many of them are actually active. So Cody was apparently very active on the site, and his username was One Country Boy. On a cold, dark night of November 27th, 2010, at around 9:30 p.m., Constable Aaron Keller of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police was driving along a remote highway in north
This is what got him caught, is that young girl that was 15. Wow. And he was caught that day that he did it.
central British Columbia, Highway 27. Keller was in his early 20s and was fairly new to the RCMP. He had been working in his current position for just 1 year at this point. He was driving south from Fort St. James towards Vanderhoof as the snow was lightly falling. In the distance, off the side of the highway, he suddenly noticed a pair of headlights bobbing up and down, as if the vehicle was moving over extremely bumpy terrain at a high speed. As Keller got closer to the tree line, he could see that it was actually a black pickup truck driving along a logging road. Suddenly, the black pickup truck emerged from the tree line and darted onto the highway in front of him. And because of the high speed, it slid onto the opposite side of the highway before the driver regained control. So immediately,
That's not suspicious at all.
this set off a red flag for Constable Keller. He had a gut instinct that something was up and decided to follow the truck. But because this was a remote area where people tend to carry firearms, Keller decided not to pull the truck over just yet. He called in for a fellow constable, Constable Sidhu, to come meet him for backup, and followed the truck for about 10 minutes until he saw Sidhu approaching on the opposite side of the highway. Sidhu turned around, and together they turned on their emergency lights with the intention of pulling the truck over. And at this point, it was approximately 9:45 p.m. The truck continued for a couple hundred meters before slowing down and pulling over. As Keller walked to the driver's side of the door, he was a little shocked to see the driver dangling his license and registration outside the window already. This was weird to him because usually when he pulls drivers over, they were too nervous to think to have their documents ready, let alone sticking out the window. This was actually the first time he had ever seen something like this. And so he looked into the driver's window and addressed a young man with shaggy hair. It was 20-year-old Cody Lejabokov. Keller asks Cody where he's off to in such a hurry, and Cody politely replies that he is just on his way to his grandfather's house. Keller notices that Cody is only wearing shorts with a long-sleeve sweater, and this was super odd to him because we're talking about the dead of winter in northern British Columbia. It was freezing
Yeah, trust me, he wouldn't be wearing that. So yeah, clearly something's up.
cold outside. Temperatures were as low as minus 30 degrees. So we have this guy wearing shorts in the dead of winter. Seems a little suspicious. Then Keller notices a small red smear on the left side of Cody's chin, almost like a shaving cut. He also notices what could be tiny drops of blood on one of his thighs. Then Keller glanced into the truck and spotted an open can of beer behind the driver's seat. He tells Cody that because he saw an open container of alcohol, he was going to need to search the truck. Cody got out of the truck without hesitation. And at this time, Keller noticed more droplets of blood on Cody's legs and shoe. And he saw that the floor mat in the truck was wet, with a puddle forming where the driver's feet had been. These were more red flags, and the officers looked at each other knowing that this was a potentially dangerous situation. Keller then offered to let Cody wait in the back of the cop car, while they searched the truck since it was so cold outside and he was only wearing shorts. But the real reason they wanted him there was to ensure their own safety, and to keep Cody contained as they searched the pickup truck. So Cody agreed to this, and Keller said that they needed to search him before he got into the car, which was normal procedure. Keller found a cell phone in one pocket, looked it over, and handed it back to Cody. He then searched the other pocket and found a metal Leatherman pocket tool, which is basically a survival pocket knife which has several knife blades attached to it. Keller opened the tool and saw a red stain on the inner blades. When asked about it, Cody replied that he had used it on some grouse earlier. And apparently a grouse is a large game bird local to the area. And Keller remarked that that was way too much blood for a grouse. And then Cody replied,
It just makes me sick. It makes me feel sick for the fact that I know that that blood is from that young little girl. I can't believe he's up for parole after 25 years. He only has to serve 15 years, and wow, 4 first-degree murder charges, and he only has to serve 15 years. What the fuck?
that he had actually used it on a deer before that. So then Keller asks
Oh,
Cody
okay.
if he has a hunting license, to which Cody responds no, that he's a redneck and this is just what they do for fun. Keller had a feeling that Cody was hiding something. So Keller then asked Constable Sidhu to dispatch the British Columbia Conservation Services, since they felt that they were dealing with an illegal poacher. The two constables then left Cody secure in the police vehicle as they searched his black pickup truck. And in his truck, they found the following items. They found 2 crack pipes in the center console, a 4-pack of
nice.
mudslides, 2 were opened and partly consumed, and a 4-pack of White Russians, both with 2 bottles partially consumed and the other 2 missing. And this is the point where they found something super suspicious. A pipe wrench with blood in its teething behind the center console. There was also a backpack shaped like a monkey, and inside was a black polka dot wallet. Keller took the ID out of the wallet, and it belonged to someone called Lauren Leslie. Conservation Officer Cameron Hill then arrived at the scene to interview Cody, and to get more information about the deer he apparently killed. He asked Cody what his story was and what had happened.
Maybe just tell me.
This sick bastard actually lured her from online. He met her online and somehow got her out of the house. He's a child predator too. Can you imagine? Like, wow.
You take it from the top. Like, tell me what's this whole thing. I don't know if I'm getting the story right or not, but just tell me what went on tonight. In terms of your hunting activities.
We were hunting deer. We shot a couple grouse too.
Okay. So I need some more details on that though. Like, so who were you with?
My buddy.
What's his name?
Tom's.
Buddy Thomas.
Yeah.
And is he from Prince George?
He's from Fort, but
Fort Fraser or Fort St. James?
But he lives in Prince now.
Oh, okay.
So the story that Cody gave was that he met his friend Thomas after work at around 4 p.m. in the nearby town of Vanderhoof. Cody got into Thomas's car and they drove around the area to go hunting after dark. Together they had driven to a gravel logging road just outside of town and came across a deer. His friend shot the deer with a shotgun and then
I'm not a hunter and never would be, but hunting at night, isn't that like pretty much unheard of? I could be wrong, but I can't see why anyone would want to hunt at night.
the two loaded the deer in the back of Thomas's truck. And then he took Cody back to his truck and Thomas took off with the dead deer, saying that he would dump it somewhere. Now, Officer Hill had over 30 years experience in law enforcement at this time, so this story sounded super weird to him. Hill then asked Cody what the pipe wrench was for. And Cody said the deer was still alive, so they used the pipe wrench to club the injured deer after they hunted it down and put it at.
He was 19 years old when he started, Teresa. Yeah. And got caught when he was 24. Yeah, I don't think people hunt at night. It's okay, so it's called poaching. You can't hunt before sunrise or after night. Yeah, I didn't think so. So, I mean, what the hell? Thanks.
Out of its misery.
Okay, so if we run this blood, if we do a forensic match on it, we're going to find out it's deer blood, right?
I guess so, yeah.
You guess so.
It obviously is.
Okay.
I told you what happened.
All the blood. So the blood on a knife, on a pipe wrench, all that will be deer blood. Okay. Okay, because I'm just trying to give you every opportunity. If there's something more to the story, to let's do it now before we spend a bunch of time and try to sort
He
through
said
this.
you just wanted to ask me a couple questions, and then I'd probably be on my way.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the story seems odd, Cody, to be honest with you. Like, I just,
well, obviously it seems odd, right?
I mean, I've never,
He even sounds like a cocky son of a bitch. Like he thinks he's got this. He can do what he wants. Entitled. You know what I'm saying? Like the way he's speaking to this officer, even like I've never done anything against the law in my life, but even if I see an officer and they stop and talk to me, I'm terrified. It's ridiculous. I don't know. It's like always, I know I didn't do anything wrong. They're just nice around here and they always stop and say hi. That's just how they are. I mean, half the time my kid gets to sit in their cars and we turn on the lights, they're barely friendly over here. But I always get nervous, like, oh no, even though I know I didn't do anything. It's just he's freaking cocky and he did do something. Like, wow. That's a pretty narcissistic person right there.
never really encountered anybody that would just go out and kill a deer, beat it with a wrench, throw it in a truck, and then go and dump it. Like, why not
Right.
just leave it there in the first place? Why would
It was
you?
on the road.
Why not drag it off the road? Why,
We just put it in the truck.
either today or tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow, if we talk to Thomas, is he going to tell us the same story?
Probably not.
No.
I'm just being honest with you. He's probably not going to say it.
Yeah.
He knows it's illegal.
Yeah.
Hill then asked why there was so much blood on the Leatherman tool, and Cody's response was just weird. It's hardly an explanation. He almost sounds just plain arrogant about it.
So you didn't. There's a little bit of blood on your Leatherman tool. What's that from?
Cut it?
Oh, you said a minute ago you didn't cut it.
No, cut it.
Oh, cut it.
Yeah.
Cut his throat.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you do that?
To kill it.
Okay, so shooting it and beating it on the head didn't kill it, so you're cutting its throat now.
We just cut it. Okay. I'm not saying why we did it or what happened, but I'm just saying we cut it.
Right.
So at this point, none of his story is making any sense whatsoever.
Nope.
But Cody is arrested for violation of the Wildlife Act, illegal poaching. Hill then asked Cody what he was doing up in the logging area anyway. And Cody said his grandfather had told him about a good hunting spot and he was just checking it out. In the dark. At 9:30 at night. This guy has an answer for everything. According to
Yep.
the officer, all the logging roads are the same up there, and the hunting is good anywhere. So then Hill asked if he was going to find anything unusual up there, and Cody replied no. So Officer Hill left for about 20 minutes, trying to retrace Cody's tire tracks up the logging road. There was about 8 to 10 inches of snow on the ground, with about an inch of fresh snow on top of Cody's tire tracks. So then Hill noticed a few hundred meters ahead that the truck marks came to a stop, so he pulled over a few feet behind. He got out of his truck and noticed 2 sets of footprints. He followed the prints towards a dense area bush until he found blood splattered all over the snow. And then he noticed a track in the snow as if somebody had been dragged. He followed these markings
my
into the pitch
God.
black forest, weaving through branches with his dimly lit flashlight until he made a horrific discovery. Back at the main highway, Keller radios Hill and asks, quote, "Is it what we thought?" And Hill replies, "Worst case scenario." Officer Hill had found the body of 15-year-old Lauren Leslie. She was partially buried near a gravel pit with her pants and her underwear pulled down to her ankles. Her
Oh,
blonde
hell
hair was
no.
matted in blood. She had cuts on her neck, and her face was so badly beaten it was unidentifiable. At this point, it was now
Sorry, guys, I haven't watched this. So huge trigger warning. Oh my God.
– 12:15 at night, and Cody Legibokov, standing at 6'2", weighing 225 pounds, was officially arrested for first-degree murder. Constable Sidhu read him his rights and told him he could contact a lawyer, but Cody doesn't want to talk to a lawyer.
Cody, the time now is 0015 hours on the 28th of November 2010.
Yeah, he doesn't
I
want a
told
lawyer.
you already that I'm
He's got it in the
arresting you
bag.
for murder of...
I did not murder anybody.
Listen to me, okay?
Yeah.
I'm arresting you for the murder of Lauren Dawn Toews, Toews. It is my duty to inform you. You have the right to retain and sought counsel in private without delay. You may call any lawyer you want.
I want to call my dad.
There is a 24-hour telephone service available which provides you a legal aid duty lawyer who can give you legal advice in private. This advice is given without a charge, and the lawyer can explain the legal aid plan to you. If you wish to contact a legal aid lawyer, I can provide you with a telephone number. Do you understand?
Yeah. When do I get to call my dad?
Just hang on a second.
Because I didn't do this. Seen it? Yes.
Then why don't you say something, you lying?
I want you to leave.
Do you want to call a lawyer?
I want to call my dad.
You have the right to call a lawyer right now. How old are you? You're an
I want to
adult?
call my dad.
You're an adult? So you have a right to call a lawyer right now. Do you want to call a lawyer?
I'm wondering if he's got, like, if his family has money and that's why he wants to call his dad instead of a lawyer, thinking daddy's going to get him out of it.
Call my dad.
Okay, is your dad a lawyer?
I want to call my dad.
Okay.
Wow.
Because I
Do
didn't
you have
do
a
this.
right for a lawyer? That's what I'm asking you. Do you want to call a lawyer right now or not?
I don't know why I'm fucking in here.
I told you, you're under arrest for murder.
I did not murder anybody.
Well, I am investigating a murder.
Yeah,
I have reasons to believe.
but I did not murder anybody. Found it.
Okay, well, I don't know nothing about that right now, so right
Well,
now,
then don't assume that I did murder somebody.
well, I have reasonable
What
grounds
a
to
son of
believe.
a-
Well, I
bitch.
did not.
Okay, so do you want to call a lawyer or not?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a lawyer?
My dad would know. And I want a cigarette out of my truck.
Um,
I don't know any lawyers.
Also, you're not obliged to say anything. Anything you say may be given as evidence. Do you understand?
Yep. I want to talk to my dad
Sorry?
because I did not do this. Drive down a road and find this.
Okay,
It's fucked
before
up.
you tell me anything, you said you want to speak to a lawyer. We'll get you a lawyer first before you start telling me anything, okay?
Yeah.
That's your right. You have a right to speak to a lawyer before you talk to me or tell me anything.
Yeah.
So we'll work on getting you a lawyer as soon as we can.
Okay, that's freaky. First he said,
Right.
seen it, and then found it, but I didn't do it. He called a 15-year-old child's body it twice. What
Yeah.
a fucking
that-
asshole. Lauren Dawn Leslie
agree,
was
woman.
15 years old and a grade 10 student at Netticoat Valley Secondary School in Vanderhoof. Her parents were divorced and she lived with her mother in the nearby town of Fraser Lake. However, her parents successfully co-parented and she kept a room at her father's house. She was 5'8" with a slender build, brown eyes, and long blonde wavy hair. And probably due to her height, she looked more mature for her age. Lauren had been born
More mature. She looks to me like she's only 12, 13, not 15. She looks very young. What do you guys think? I mean, I know she's 15. That's what they said. Wow. She's a baby. we already know that he did this, but for him to sit there and exactly like she said, call this poor girl it not only once but twice, and to say, I found it and then I saw it, or whatever the hell he was saying. Well, if that's true, then why did you tell the police officer when they pulled you over? Because you did it. That's why.
Born with a genetic disorder that left her legally blind with 50% vision in one eye and no vision in the other. But she never let her eyesight get in the way. She coped with it well and never let it interfere with her activities.
I hope they or I hope she goes through this online thing, how they met, and how he found her. Because I don't know, I want to hear more about that and see if there's anybody else.
She was described as sensitive, caring, compassionate, and full of life. She always wanted people to be treated fairly and spoke up when she felt they weren't. She enjoyed water activities like boating and tubing with her father as well as swimming. But overall, she was seen as a normal girl who was generally happy and upbeat. She would also frequent the social networking site Nexopia. She made friends online, and one of them testified saying that Lauren was one of their closest friends, even though they had never met in person. This friend said that Lauren had always been there for them, and that they were even in a time where they were going to end their life, and Lauren talked them out of it. On the night of her murder, at around 8 p.m., Lauren told her mom that she was going to meet a girlfriend for a coffee. Her mom reminded her to be careful and to be home at 1 a.m. This was the last conversation they ever had. But Lauren was not off to see a girlfriend that night. She was going to meet Cody Lejabokov. Lauren and Cody met a few weeks earlier on Nexopia. Cody went by the username One Country Boy and presented himself just as that, an easygoing country boy. And Lauren was looking to meet friends. However, their chats always began with Cody asking really inappropriate sexual questions. But Lauren wasn't interested in that. She either avoided the question, ignored it, or changed the subject. A few hours before Lauren's death, the text messages between the two started at about 6 p.m. when Cody asked Lauren what she was doing that night. After some back and forth, Lauren invited him to come meet her in Vanderhoof and gave him directions to her school, which would be their meeting place. And of course, Cody asked her not to tell anyone. Lauren's reply to this was, quote, "Well, we're just hanging out, right? Nothing sexual." Cody didn't answer that question, but went on to say that he was driving a black pickup truck and was wearing shorts. He also asked Lauren if she wanted him to pick up any drinks, to which Lauren replied chocolate mudslides. Lauren was seen leaving her home that night just after 8 p.m. As she was waiting for Cody, she texted him to find out where he was. He replied that he was getting the drinks. She asked him to hurry as she was cold waiting outside. Cody purchased the drinks at 8:20 p.m., and 10 minutes later, Lauren was seen sitting on the swings at the school they arranged to meet up at, just as a black pickup truck pulled up. The witness said a man in shorts stepped out of the truck and
she even acts and she acts like a young girl. You know what I mean? Like obviously he's a pedophile because why would I don't know, how old was he at the time? He was what, 22 or 24. What the hell what interest would you have with a young 15-year-old girl? And why are you telling her not to tell anybody where you're going? I mean, oh, I just want to smack her and be like, seriously, don't go. Like, this is why no, this is why you don't talk to people online like that.
walked towards her. The next day, Cody Allen Lejabokov was booked and processed into the RCMP Vanderhoof detachment. He was photographed and had swab samples taken from the various blood smears on his body. And now it was time for Cody's interrogation, which would begin with RCMP Corporal Greg Yanicki. The cops begin their interrogation, but Cody is not talking. Officer Greg Yanicki had driven up from Vancouver to be a part of the
Yeah, it's because he's a cocky, arrogant son of a bitch, and he thinks he's gotten away with it. This man, 24-year-old man, well, he was 24 in 2014. If he ever gets out, I'm sorry, but he's gonna kill again. People like that never change. He's a fucking pedophile. He's a murderer. He does not deserve to see the light of day ever again.
interview team. They sat there for 2 hours, making small talk as Greg and Nikki tried to get Cody to let his guard down and start talking. I listened to this 2-hour recording. It was painfully boring. I don't know how the officer made small talk that long with somebody who wasn't giving anything back. They literally talked about where they were from and what the area was like. Officer Yanicki was trying to find things that they had in common. Cody talked about his job at the Ford dealership in Prince George, a small city about an hour's drive away from Vanderhoof. He talked about how he worked his way up from shipping receiving to the parts department. Cody spoke about the good relationship he had with his parents and how he was into the National Hockey League. He apparently was a diehard Calgary Flames fan. So then Cody eventually tells Yannicki that he has a girlfriend named Amy. He said that they had been dating for about 5 months and that it was serious, and they had planned on spending the rest of their lives together. Basically, trying to make it sound that he's a family man who wants to live a happy life. He claimed that they
Yeah,
met at the
right.
Ford dealership when he was doing his apprenticeship, and Amy was the receptionist there. She was also going to school at the same time, and she was studying psychology. The irony is not lost upon me that the poor thing was studying psychology and ended up with a serial killer. After this
Right?
conversation, Cody then asks if he can go home. Officer Yannicki finally finds his open.
Yeah, like she said, that's not lost on me. That's insane. Like, really? Studying psychology and she ends up with him. Wow. I need to reach out to this girl, see if she's got any more information on missing indigenous women and men. The more you know, right?
And Yannicki suggests that Cody first needs to share his story and explain what happened that night. So step by step, Cody told a story. Slowly he explained he had been driving home when he saw some four-wheeler tracks leading from the highway. So, randomly, he decided to follow the tracks. Nearby, he found the cell phone, along with a monkey backpack, a pipe wrench, and a knife. He said the area had been disturbed and it looked like somebody had dragged something. He followed the drag marks and came across the body of Lauren Leslie lying face down on the ground. He rolled her over and saw that she was dead. He
What a
said that her
liar.
hands and face were bashed and bloody. And then he said he was, quote, scared shitless, so I got the hell out of there. He added that he has a life and didn't need to be mixed up in something like that, and that this
What?
was simply a case of bad timing. So he left, but not before he took the time to pick up some of the items that were around the body. He said that he took a wrench, a knife, some booze, a cell phone, and an animal backpack. Seriously, who
What a
would
sick
take that stuff
bastard.
from a crime scene? I could see people taking cash, possibly credit cards, but that's it. Why would anyone ever take the alleged murder weapon from a crime scene when you know you didn't do it? And plus, there were
Exactly.
only 2 sets of footprints at the crime scene, so his story makes no sense whatsoever. If what he said was true, there should be 3 sets of footprints, not 2. Cody also said that he assumed the blood on his face and clothes, along with some scratches on his palms and knees, were from rolling her over, and from branches scratching him. He also stated that his DNA was probably on her body from rolling her over, and denied any involvement other than just discovering the body. Yannicki then asked what kind
That's
of
why he
person would
didn't
do
say
something
nothing to
like
the cop,
that.
though, right?
And Cody replied, quote, obviously not a good person. Yannicki then ended the interview and returned Cody to his holding cell. A few hours later, the interrogation began again,
Exactly,
with
Tracy.
Yannicki chipping away at Cody's story, trying to get him to talk in greater detail. Another RCMP officer there, Sergeant Peter Tufik,
The unsolved murder of the indigenous girl Susan I went to school with was 15 in grade 7, had ran away before she went into the sex trade and was living in a youth center at the time. She was adopted and had lost her adopted mom to a heart attack. Obviously, she was having a hard time with it. She still lives in my memory. I just want justice for her. Yeah, ditto. I remember we were talking about that. Maybe, I don't know, how about both of us try and get in touch with this woman? There's a YouTube channel and there's also a website and it's called True Crime Canada. That would be a good idea. Somebody's gotta know something.
immediately thought of another recent case that seemed similar to this one. Tufik had a strong suspicion that Lauren Leslie was only the latest murder that Cody had been involved in. The case of Cynthia Ma was still fresh in his mind. The decomposing remains of 35-year-old Cynthia had been found 7 weeks earlier in LC Gun Park, about 1 hour's drive from Vanderhoof, and the way she had been found was eerily similar to how Lauren had been found. Sergeant Tufik told Cody that he didn't think Lauren was his first murder, and mentioned Cynthia's name. He tried to scare Cody by saying that they were going to go over his life, search his house, computer, and take DNA profiles. Sergeant Tufik suggested that maybe Cody was trying to.
Can you send them to me on Twitter? I'd like to go live about that. We'll see. You know what I mean? I'll try and get in touch with this woman. And who knows? Maybe something will pop up that would be like I will never give up on these women ever. It's not right. They deserve justice. I don't care if they're black, purple, green, and yellow. Every single woman has a right to be here. You know what I mean? And I'm so sick and tired of this racism bullshit. And then no one cares because they're not white. That's exactly what it is and what it feels like. But yeah, I'm game. We'll do it. Oh, I seen you sent it. Thanks, girl. After we're done with this, if you want, I can go over it. Read it. Maybe someone will know something.
Be in the same league as other famous Canadian killers, such as Picton, Colonel Russell Williams, and Clifford Olson. Anne brought up how the colonel stood up and admitted what he did. At this point, the interrogation was over for day one. The next day, after Cody had some time to sleep on it,
Poor Alberta and Stella knows all about Clifford Olson. Yeah. Poor girl. The other two, I already did one on Robert Picton and Russell Williams. I was planning on doing that next, actually.
and think things over, he changed his story in the next interview. And Cody is now admitting that he did know Lauren. He told a story about how he met Lauren on the social networking site Nexopia, and how they had met 2 months prior, and that they used to text each other as friends. He also admits that he did meet Lauren on the night of the murder. He said earlier that day he was hanging out, watching TV with his girlfriend Amy, and that he eventually fell asleep, so she went home. When he woke up, he texted Lauren and arranged to meet her at school, and they went for a drive. According to Cody, they drank some alcohol and had sex in his truck. Afterwards, they decided to go for a ride and talk. He told her that he wanted to go off-roading and turn down an old logging road. And this is the point where things started to go downhill.
No way. I don't believe that they had consensual sex. I think he arred her, and I think he murdered her because she was screaming. What pedos do. No, this prick never deserves to get out. I need to figure out when he's up for parole. I don't care if I have to go there. I'm going. I'll write to the president, to somebody, anybody, anything. Like, this is ridiculous.
Cody said that as they were driving, Lauren started slapping herself in the face and yelling about how she hated her life. Cody said that Lauren demanded that he stop the truck, so he did. And then she jumped out and started hitting herself in the face with a wrench that she had grabbed from the floor. Cody went on to say that Lauren kept hitting herself in the face and head with the pipe wrench that she had found on the floor of the truck, repeatedly until she collapsed on the ground. Oh, and she must have had a knife on her too, because she used the knife to stab herself in the neck until she collapsed on the ground.
What?
So she gets out of the truck. She's rolling on the ground. How's she hitting herself? Show me.
She took issues.
Huh?
There's a wrench.
Okay.
I had a wrench in my truck.
Okay.
And it was, I believe it was on my floor.
Okay.
And I don't know if she must have seen that or if she had, yeah. And I guess she had a knife on her or what was going on.
Okay.
And yeah, and she was hitting herself. And I was more stunned and in awe than anything, right? And at the end of it, I was just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
Let's go lying here. Well, now she's fucking pretty well dead. And I don't know what to do.
He should never be let out, Teresa. No way. He is sick.
Fucked off.
Okay.
Literally left.
And where was she when you said she's dead?
She was kind of running around and then I kind of pulled it off to the side of it.
Tell me what that.
I pulled it off to the side.
How?
I pulled it off to the side.
Okay.
And then it was fucked. And I got so fucking scared. I had to leave.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay. That's fine.
The fact is, I didn't do anything. I was there, but I did not kill this woman. And I left
It's not a woman, it's a child.
You did leave it.
because I was scared. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, you took everything, all that evidence. Okay.
I don't know what else to say.
Even if this ridiculous story was true, it's not, but even if it was, why wouldn't he do anything to stop her? He's a massive guy, 6'2", 225 pounds. He could have easily overpowered her. He then dragged Lauren's body into the bush. Although he offered no explanation as to why he left her body there. He then changed the subject and went on to say that he had a family and a girlfriend who loved him, and how he would never do something like this. It just wasn't right. He'd never hurt anyone. He also denied being involved in the death of Cynthia Ma. Quote, I don't pick up hookers. I don't do that. The more they continued to talk, the more relaxed Cody seemed to be. Since Cody was opening up more, the officer pressed him for more truths. He mentioned some inconsistencies. The first one was when Lauren's body was found, her pants and underwear were already down around her ankles. This didn't jive with Cody's story. Since she had a belt on, her pants would not have just slid down as he dragged her body into the bush. Also, if he dragged her when her pants were already down, it would have forced snow into her underwear and pants. The only explanation for that was that her pants were being pulled down after she was dragged to her final resting place. Cody was starting to realize that his story had been discredited, so he decided to revise it. Now he said
my
that he and Lauren
God.
had sex in the truck on the logging road, just before she got out of the truck. The sex had been fast and a little rough, he said. When they were
Yeah, I
done,
bet.
Lauren began to pull up her pants, and that's when she started screaming and started slapping herself in the face. Cody added that obviously she had problems. The officer decided to tell Cody about another inconsistency that had been found in his story, one that centered on the injuries that caused Lauren's death. Because of the force and the angle of the injuries to her face, preliminary forensics found that it would have been impossible for her injuries to have been self-inflicted. A human arm and hand just don't bend at the angle required for Lauren to have hit
Makes
herself
me
with a
sick.
wrench with the force needed to cause the injuries that she had, let alone stab herself in the neck with a knife. But Cody clung to this version of his story, saying that he knew for a fact that he didn't kill her. When asked by interrogators if he blamed Lauren for the situation he was in, he said, quote, "I blame her for hitting herself in the fucking face." It was clear from his tone that he was both annoyed and angry. So then someone suddenly entered the room that Cody wasn't expecting, his girlfriend Amy. After she had left his apartment on the night of the murder, she went home. And when he didn't show up for work the next day, obviously because he was in jail, and she couldn't get in touch with him, she drove past his house and saw the cop cars there. She eventually approached them, so the police brought her in, hoping she could get Cody to tell them the truth. So she sat down with Cody and began asking him what happened. He denied repeatedly that he hurt Lauren. He did, however, admit to meeting her online and that they had met up that night for the first time and that they had sex after consuming alcohol. Then he said that's when Lauren went crazy, grabbed the wrench from the floor, and started hitting herself in the head with it. So, of course,
He's such
Amy
a
asked the
liar.
question that we were all thinking. Couldn't you stop her? Cody said that he was in shock and that he panicked. This whole fiasco was shocking to Amy. She even had a moment where she started to blame herself and question if she had stayed that night would have made a difference. And then somewhere in this interview, Cody admits to doing cocaine before he and Lauren met up. It seemed like this was the last straw for Amy. Apparently,
That
Cody
was the
had
last
lied to
straw?
Amy during their relationship and said that he had only smoked weed and never did hard drugs. So basically, Amy stormed out. She told Cody that he had clearly been
His girlfriend Amy doesn't sound like she's all there either. Are you serious? He meets up with a 15-year-old little girl that he did kill. And you're pissed off because he did cocaine? What the actual fuck, lady?
lying to her the whole time and she couldn't trust him anymore. 2 days later, the officers told Cody that his stories had inconsistencies regarding Lauren's injuries. They also said that both the stab wounds to the neck and the blow to the head were both fatal. It's completely impossible to kill yourself with a knife and then kill yourself with a blow to the head.
Like,
So then Cody's
my-
story changed again. After more prodding by police, Cody then admitted that he hit Lauren with a wrench. Quote, just once or twice. But it was after the fact that she had already beaten herself. Cody went on to say that he
Sick son of
thought
a
Lauren
bitch.
was already dead, but he got scared when he saw the blood coming out of her. He saw the wrench on the ground and grabbed it and hit her on the head to make sure
If she was already passed, then why the hell are you hitting her with the wrench again if you didn't do it in the first place and now you're saying that you did? That doesn't even make any sense. This guy is a joke. Oh my God. He's probably in SAG. He's probably gets his own little room, doesn't have to go anywhere, and he's all protected, the piece of shit, because he's a pedophile. Nah, if I was one of those guards, I would accidentally let him out, on purpose. Yeah, I would. These people get more, I'm telling you, they get put on a pedestal. Like, look at Josh Duggar, for Christ's sake. Every single one of these people, these disgusting scums of the earth who should be in the ground, not the victims, right? They all get special treatment. Hold on. That's how it is in Canada. They punish the victims and not the actual murderers. It doesn't make any sense.
she had been put out of her misery. Didn't he already try this excuse with a non-existent deer? It's the same frickin' story. He reiterated that he had only hit her after she had already hurt herself. Yannicki then asked him if he knew anything about the young woman's body recently found in
Right.
Elsie Gunn Park, Cynthia Ma, and Cody replied no. Yannicki then said that there were so many similarities between Cynthia's murder and Lauren's murder that they were going to do DNA testing, and if they came back with a match, Cody was going to look like a monster. Little did the RCMP know at the time that the murder of Lauren Leslie was about to open up a big fat can of worms. 10 months later, on October the 18th, 2011, following a lengthy investigation, the RCMP announced that in addition to the murder of Lauren Leslie, Cody Legibokov would be charged with 3 new charges of first-degree murder. They cited 35-year-old mother of 6, Jill Chachenko, 23-year-old mother of 2, Natasha Montgomery, and 35-year-old Cynthia Ma. So after Cody was arrested, investigators showed up to his apartment, looking for any sort of evidence that could be used in Lauren Leslie's murder. They brought their black lights and used a special chemical to unmask any bloodstains that had been cleaned up. And what they found was something out of a horror movie. It was a bloodbath all over his apartment. There were bloodstains found on the walls, floors, the dining room table and chair, carpet, box spring, mattress, the bathtub, the sink, and backsplash. There were also 15 spots in the kitchen and dining room areas, including the dining room ceiling. But these bloodstains didn't belong to Lauren Leslie. They discovered that the bloodstains belonged to 3 other separate unsolved murder victims. So who were these other victims? Cody's first known victim, Jill Chachenko, was reported missing October 22nd, 2009, after friends and family had...
Look at that. Isn't that like, what are the odds of that? That is the exact same couch I'm sitting on right now. I don't know. That's just, wow, that's creepy.
hadn't heard from her in a couple of weeks. This was 10 months before the other murders began. Cody Legibokov was only 19 at this time. Jill was a 35-year-old loving mother of 4 boys and 2 girls who friends and family said she cared about immensely. She was described as a warm and compassionate person and a talented singer. She also had struggles with drug and alcohol addictions and repeatedly tried to get clean, but her demons would win and she would fall back into addiction. Jill was also known to be an escort for several agencies and also a sex worker on the streets in Prince George. Just 4 days after Jill was reported as missing, her body was found by a man collecting aluminum cans. She was half buried in a gravel pit on the outskirts of Prince George. Forensic analysis of the remains revealed that she had died from a head injury and a skull fracture and had 3 major bruises on her brain. Much of the rest of her body was covered in bruises as well, including her arms, which suggested she had tried to defend herself from her attacker. The amount of blood loss was so extreme that the pathologist had trouble obtaining a sample during the autopsy. There was also strong evidence of a sexual assault. At the time, they took samples from Jill, and a DNA profile of an unknown male was developed. After Cody was arrested 10 months later, and his DNA was analyzed and run through the system, he was matched to this unknown male. At the time of Jill's murder, Cody didn't have a criminal record. Bloodstains on Cody's apartment floor proved to be a match to Jill, along with a pool of her blood that soaked all the way through the couch. They also found Cody's DNA under one of Jill's fingernails. Victim number 2 was Cynthia Ma. The body of 35-year-old Cynthia Ma, a mother of 2 young children, was found on October 8th, 7 weeks before the night Cody had been detained by police. She had her own aspirations and dreams, but also got trapped in the world of drugs and alcohol. Cynthia was from a First Nations family, and she was described by her sister as having some struggles. She was born with an unspecified disability and was vulnerable to people who might take advantage of her. Her cousin introduced her to hard drugs at a young age, and she quickly became addicted. Her addiction took her to the streets, where she relied on sex trade work to fund her habit. However,
I was just gonna say, how'd that fucker even know that she was what do you call her, a hooker? How would he know that if he didn't know this person? Because he did say that about her. Bastard.
she wasn't happy with her life and had aspirations for more. So even while living that lifestyle, she would continue to call her family and made an effort to attend AA and NA meetings. Cynthia had been reported missing on September 23rd, 2010, after she failed to check in with friends and family. On October 8th, a police search team were looking in LC Gun Park, about an hour's drive from Vanderhoof. The park was known to be frequented by sex trade workers and was also a place where drug deals were often made. A member of the search team was looking along a tree line and noticed a very strong rotting smell, which he assumed was rotting garbage. There he found Cynthia's decomposing remains. Like Lauren Leslie, Cynthia's pants had been pulled around her ankles and her body was also dragged. She suffered from stab wounds, along with blunt trauma to the head and chest. She had fractured ribs, a broken cheek, jaw, neck bone, and fingers. A deep hole.
Oh my God, he is not only a murderer, he's a rapist and a pedophile. This is wow. Again, people like this don't change. You don't just wake up one day and start doing these things. You're that person. You're that type. You are some mechanism in you, some makeup of your DNA, whatever the hell it is. You're that person. And people like that don't change. They just don't.
In her right shoulder blade and her voice box had been punctured by a sharp object.
God.
Cynthia also had broken fingers, which, just like Jill, were most likely defensive injuries from trying to protect herself. The vertebrae in her neck were so badly damaged, her injuries were consistent with someone viciously stomping on her neck. And although
Holy
Cynthia's blood was
frick.
not found on any of the stains in Cody's apartment, investigators found a picaroon in the apartment which had Cynthia's blood on it. Her blood was also found on a sweater and a sock found in Cody's truck, as well as a pickaxe tool and running shoes found in his apartment. Victim number 3 was Natasha Montgomery, a 23-year-old mother of 2 young children, who was last seen October 31st, 2010, almost 3 months before Cody was detained, and about a month before Cynthia Ma was found. Like Cynthia, Natasha was also from a First Nations family. She also had a drug habit and was also involved in the sex trade.
It's like he was, well, definitely he was searching around the Highway of Tears and he was picking up prostitutes, hookers, or whatever. It was like he was killing one every month. He's that confident. Like I said, people don't just start out killing. I want to know his background. Hopefully this woman knows and they can kind of tell us, like, because you have to start somewhere, not just go out and kill people. At least I don't think. Not from everything I've heard or read.
At the time of her disappearance, she had made progress in staying sober. She was motivated to
Exactly,
become a better
Teresa,
role
right?
model for her children. She had had a bit of a rough life. Her father had been in and out of prison during her childhood, and she tried and became quickly addicted to crystal meth when she was only 17. However, she eventually entered a rehab program, which saw her break her addiction and graduate from high school. Natasha liked to draw. She played the clarinet and trumpet, and she was a skilled figure skater and singer. After the birth of her youngest child in 2006, she fell into a cocaine habit, which resulted in her serving time in a regional correctional center. On August 19th, over 3 months before Cody's arrest, she was released from prison and told her mom she was excited to be coming home and back in time for her daughter's birthday. Her mom never heard from her after that and reported her missing a month after. Her body has never been recovered. Despite this, forensic tests on the bloodstains on the shorts Cody was wearing on the night of his arrest contained Natasha's DNA, all found in
What?
Cody's apartment. Her DNA was also found on Cody's hoodie, on his bed sheets, and stains on the wall, floor, curtains, bath mat, comforter, and an axe, all found in Cody's apartment. Special chemicals also uncovered bloodstains on
I know that her DNA was found on the axe that he has and quite a few other things. I didn't realize they were on the shorts that he was wearing the night that he killed the 15-year-old girl. Holy shit.
the dining room floor, with Cody's footprint in the middle of it. Over 100 blood spatter stains were found on the wall, baseboard, and ceiling, and all of these belonged to Natasha. With the announcement of these 3 new murders, Cody's hometown was in shock, to say the least. Those who knew him said he was a typical kid. His high school principal said that he was a pleasant, hockey-playing fella who enjoyed life at school and was liked by everybody. Others said he had a loving family, was well-liked by his peers, and was good at sports. The Lejabokoff family were described as pillars of the community. Cody's friends and coworkers echoed the thoughts that the Cody they knew had always been such a nice, normal kid who liked sports. One of his peers is quoted as saying, "When my friend told me it was Cody, I wouldn't believe it. He was popular, he got along with everyone, he was fun, joked around, partied, and stuff like that." Cody's own grandfather said that the Cody he knew, the Cody he took hunting and fishing, wouldn't do any of that. He said he just didn't understand it. Lauren Leslie's family were able to find small comfort in the fact that their daughter's death ended a serial killer's career. It was obvious from the pattern of deaths, 3 of those in the months leading up to Cody's arrest, that he was ramping up his killing activity and would have continued had he not been caught. Elliot Layton, a forensic anthropologist and expert on serial killers, later pointed out the rarity of such a young killer. Quote, "The vast majority of serial killers are between the ages of 25 and 55. Occasionally, there's someone in their 60s, but I've never heard of anyone in their teens. Also, there's usually a ramping up period that begins during childhood. The killings just seem to come out of nowhere." It was almost 4 years between Cody's arrest and when
Okay, so that's what I wanted to know. That's crazy. So it literally came out of nowhere. He just started killing and he was a teenager. Wow.
his trial began. The trial was delayed a month while Cody's lawyer applied to have the trial moved from Prince George to Vancouver, but this application was rejected. And on June 2nd, 2014, Cody appeared in court in Prince George. And now, 24-year-old Cody was no longer a scruffy teenager. Doug Leslie, Lauren's father, testified early in the trial. He remembered how he could not identify his daughter because of the extent of her facial injuries. The way
Oh
she
my
was first
God.
identified was because Doug had told the police she had a distinctive wrist tattoo. During cross-examination, Cody's lawyer asked about Lauren's mental health, trying to legitimize Cody's claim that she had bludgeoned herself and cut her own
Wow.
throat with the knife. Doug acknowledged that Lauren had suffered episodes of depression and had been hospitalized a couple of times, but denied she was psychotic, bipolar, or suicidal. An expert on forensic pathology then testified that Lauren Leslie had died from blows to the side of her head and a puncture wound to the neck, and the injuries could not have been self-inflicted. The court also heard from experts who performed the autopsies on the bodies of Jill Chachenko and Cynthia Ma. About Jill, he testified that significant force had been used to inflict the extensive injuries she received on her head, and that, in his opinion, the wounds had been caused by at least 2 different weapons. He also saw bruising on her arms that suggested she had tried to defend herself. About Cynthia, he testified that although her body had been badly decomposed, he said that, like Jill, she had suffered more than 24 violent blows from 2 or possibly 3 different weapons, and she also had bruising on her arms that was consistent with trying to defend herself against a brutal attack. Next up to testify was Amy Ball, Cody's former girlfriend.
That's his
Cody had been
girlfriend.
stoic up until that point, but then lowered his head and briefly appeared to be holding back tears. Amy testified that she noticed stains
I'd bet $1 million that there was no tears. He was pulling the sniff and maybe a crocodile tear here and there, but he's got no regrets. Look at that face. That is a face of evil.
in various locations in Cody's apartment, but he was always able to explain them away. Another person to testify was RCMP Sergeant Beverly Zaporizan, a blood spatter expert who also worked on another famous Canadian serial killer case, Robert Pickton. She conducted bloodstain
geez.
analysis on samples taken from Cody's clothes, apartment, and other relevant items. The results of her analysis, together with DNA results, tied Cody to all 4 murder victims.
That's crazy. So she had 2 serial killers that she had to work on, and they were both horrible. Oh my God.
The Crown
couldn't
then rested
imagine.
its case. It was now time for the defense. And here's where things start to get crazy. Cody was called to testify, and his story was so ridiculous, I'm surprised his attorney didn't discourage him from taking the stand. His lawyer asked him questions about his childhood, which he described as normal. He said he began drinking alcohol at 13 and later on began smoking marijuana. After having landed his job at the Ford dealership, he rented a house in Prince George with 3 girls he knew from home. He said before long, they were regularly hosting house parties. He said that over 100 people would attend the parties, and it was at one of the biggest parties that he first met X. At this point, there was mass confusion in the court, and the BC Supreme Court Justice Glenn Parrott asked him to clarify what he meant. No one had ever heard of anyone called X in the story. Cody's lawyer then asked him to explain what was going on, so Cody did. He said that he was involved in the murders, but that he didn't kill anyone. Quote, "There are 3 people, other people involved in these charges. I'm going to name them X, Y, and Z. Because for what I've done, I know I can get a significant amount
That's what he meant when I was reading in the article, the X, Y, and Z. I was so confused. At first, I thought it was chromosomes until he added a Z.
of jail time. And that includes going to a federal penitentiary. Guys who give up names to cops are not treated with any respect in prison. I will not go to a federal penitentiary as a rat on 3 murder charges." But then the prosecutor clapped right back and said, quote, "I'm pretty sure that men who are convicted of sexual offenses against women are
Exactly.
treated far worse in prison." Cody then continued with his explanation of who X, Y, and Z were, and how they fit into each story of the murders of Jill, Natasha, Lauren, and Cynthia. I'm not going to repeat his story here because, quite honestly, they're just
Bullshit.
absolutely ridiculous and make no sense whatsoever. So here's the short version. X, Y, and Z were drug dealers who attended the party.
Look at this newspaper. Budget cuts. Deal blow to Highway of Tears probe. 6 investigators trimmed as 1.4 million is pulled from the project. See what I mean? They say they're going to do something and then they cancel out. What the actual wow.
And Jill arrived with one of them. Cody said he had sex with Jill, saying, quote, "She wasn't an ugly person, so I figured I'd try my luck." After
Oh
that,
my
one of the
God.
drug dealers told Cody that Jill had to die because she owed a lot of money. According to Cody, she was bludgeoned in Cody's apartment with a part of the axe, and it happened on Cody's couch. And then he helped put her body in the back of a pickup truck and clean up the blood where the body had been. For the next 10 months or so, Cody continued to socialize with these drug dealers. and said that no more incidents happened. Later on, he was hosting another house party, and the drug dealers arrived with Cynthia Ma. And once again, Cody was told that she had to die too. He said he
Yeah,
heard a
okay.
snap and a thud, and then saw
You hear a
Cynthia
snap,
lying
pop
on the
a truck,
ground.
you know,
Cody
like
then
we're
used his
pushing.
pickup truck and
Idiot.
drove the anonymous drug dealers plus Cynthia's body to LC Gun Park. But when they got there, they realized that she wasn't dead. So Cody gave the pickaxe tool in his truck to one of the drug dealers and they finished the job. And the story for Natasha is pretty much the same thing. According to Cody, the three drug dealers, X, Y, and Z, arrived at his apartment with Natasha and told Cody that she had to die. She was bludgeoned in the apartment, and then they asked Cody for a saw. He said he didn't watch as they dismembered her body. As they had done with Jill, they took the body and Cody cleaned up his apartment. The judge would later remark that each story had X, Y, and Z individually committing each of the three murders. But in each story, never more did one person attack each victim. After each murder story, Cody's lawyer asked him pointed questions, trying to get him to show some shred of humanity or hint of remorse or regret. Quote, "How were you feeling at the time? What were you thinking?" But each time, Cody's responses were either cold or apathetic. Quote,
That's because people like him, they can't fake remorse. They can't. They don't know what it even is. They don't even know. Wow. I can't believe I never heard of this. Wow.
obviously it didn't feel good, but it was something that had to be done. I knew that what I had done wasn't right,
What?
but there really wasn't much I could do. It was obvious that Cody's lawyer failed miserably to humanize his client. Did his attorney not prep him for these questions in
Surely
order to
not.
attempt to make him look like a decent human being? This was a fact that did not go unnoticed by the jury. Upon cross-examination, the Crown prosecutor, Joseph Temple, established Cody's history of lying to investigators and continuing to change his story whenever he felt backed into a corner. He also went into the many inconsistencies in Cody's various versions of the story compared to what the evidence showed. He then pointed out that Cody was the only person there for Lauren's death. There was no X, Y, or Z. The prosecutor suggested that they didn't exist, that they were being created by Cody as a result of his desire to avoid being branded as a sex offender, something that he thought was beneath him, and that he feared would
Oh my-
result in attacks on him in prison. And if they did exist,
God.
it was highly unlikely that given the short amount of time he knew them, they would feel comfortable enough to murder one woman, let alone three, in his apartment, right in front of him. In this ridiculous tale that he wove together, this might be a good time to point out there was never any other DNA found other than Cody's and the victims. The Crown also emphasized the similarities among the four murders, including the sexual motivations behind them, the types of injuries, and the similar ways in which Cody left the bodies that had been recovered.
And where's X,
He
Y, and Z?
suggested that the attacks came as a result of the victim's refusal to meet Cody's sexual demands, as evidenced by Lauren's text messages and what she said. Quote, "We're just hanging out, right? Nothing sexual." The Crown then concluded his argument. By this time, the trial had been going for 3.5 months and had heard from over 100 witnesses. Before the jury went into deliberations, defense attorney Heller informed the justice that Cody wanted to plead guilty to 4 counts of second-degree murder, but the Crown wasn't having it. Cody's plea was denied. Even if his ridiculous story was true, because he knew the women were going to be murdered and supplied the murder weapon, that's still first-degree murder. So after a 3-month trial, 6,000 pages of forensic evidence, the jury deliberated for less than a day, and the verdict was guilty of first-degree murder on all 4 counts. As the verdict was read, Cody gave no reaction, seemingly oblivious to what they were saying. During the sentencing phase, the BC Supreme Court Justice Glenn Parrott praised Constable Keller for following his gut instinct when he first saw Cody's pickup truck on the remote highway. The justice dismissed Cody's story about X, Y, and Z as a fabrication and concluded that Cody was the only one there at the murders of Cynthia, Jill, and Natasha at his own apartment. He said that the use of weapons Cody chose were carefully selected, with the goal of dominating, degrading, and destroying the target victim. In several parts of the statement, the justice choked up with emotion. He said, quote, "These are not the actions of a simple killer, but of something infinitely worse. He lacks any shred of empathy or remorse. He should never be allowed to walk among us again." For each murder
Exactly.
charge, Cody was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after serving 25 years. However, each sentence would run concurrently, which basically means, for all intents and purposes, that even though he committed multiple offenses, he's eligible to apply for parole after 25 years. That doesn't mean he'll receive
Oof.
parole, but the fact that he can even apply
Okay, so it is 25 years. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he only has
apply for it just feels really wrong. And because all 4 murders occurred while Cody was committing a sexual assault, he will also be put on the sex offender registry. And then there is the faint hope clause. This clause is a boil on the butt of Canada, I swear. Back before 2011, Canada had something called the Faint Hope Clause written into its criminal justice code. The Faint Hope Clause offers an inmate serving a life sentence for murder or high treason the possibility to apply to have the parole date reviewed after serving only 15 years.
Fucking right. Yeah, that. And that's what Paul Bernardo got, and that's why he's up for parole after 25 years. Disgusting.
However, back in 2011, after public pressure to get rid of this horrible clause, the Canadian government did away with it, except for one tiny little loophole. The Faint Hope Clause would still apply to all offenders who were arrested before 2011. And since Cody was arrested in
Bernardo.
November of 2010, he's eligible to apply for it, which is only 3 years away, in 2025. But the key word in all of this is eligible. Cody can apply for early release, but the parole board can and most likely will decide to keep him locked up. It really depends on public pressure. He murdered 3 women from a vulnerable group and another who was a child. She was only 15. The optics of releasing him at all, let alone early, would look horrible. If the public outrage is great enough and he hasn't made any progress in prison, I really can't see him ever being released. So what does Cody's family think about all of this? They stayed away from the media. In fact, they didn't even attend his trial. The only person who was willing to speak on record was his grandfather. He said, quote, "He had a good upbringing. Everything was perfect. Everyone liked him. There wasn't a person who had a bad thing to say about him. Nobody." Cody's grandfather then went on to say, "There must be a split personality or something wrong in his head. He needs a doctor
No, Grandpa. Your grandson is just evil. That's the problem.
to help him." He also said that he spoke with Cody's parents and that almost a year after his initial arrest, they were still coming to terms with it. In February of 2015, Cody filed an appeal of his sentence, saying the denial of his request to change trial venues from Prince George to Vancouver put him at a disadvantage due to the extensive media coverage his case received in his local area. And in September of 2016, all 3 judges in the British Columbia Court of Appeal endorsed the original judge's decision, saying that most of the media coverage was throughout BC, so moving the trial to another area in British Columbia wouldn't have made a difference. In 2019, Cody was transferred from a maximum security prison in British Columbia to a medium security prison in Ontario. According to the families of the victims, none of them knew or were notified of the transfer. And
He's in Ontario, huh? Where? Probably Ottawa. Yeah, because the one in Kingston is shut down now.
this news didn't sit well with the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls advocates and First Nation leaders. Quote, "It's absolutely shocking that they would reduce his security measures to medium security," says Grand Chief Stuart Phillips of the Union of British Columbia Indian Chiefs. "It's certainly a slap in the face to the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls movement." In a written statement, Corrections Canada said that, quote, "All offenders are thoroughly evaluated and placed in facilities that can assure their security and meet their program needs. Rehabilitative efforts leading to a gradual and controlled release have proven to be a better way of protecting the public." No, sorry, I don't think so, Parole Board of Canada. Serial killers are incapable of rehabilitation. To this
Thank you. This is why I was saying, well, pretty much on every single live I do where it comes to Canada and their fucking laws, we need to stand up and do something about it. This has got to change. I don't want this piece of shit walking around. He's in Ontario. That's where I live. That's where my son lives. Are you kidding me? I don't want him anywhere near me. Wow.
day, Cody Lejabokov has not revealed where he put Natasha Montgomery's remains. So obviously there is an outgoing and growing protest against this prison transfer in British Columbia. As of 2019, MP Todd Doherty, who represents the region of Cariboo Prince George, has vowed to keep fighting to put Lejabokov back in maximum security. So that's where things stand with Lejabokov at the moment. Although I'll be keeping a close eye on this case to see if he tries to take advantage of the Faint Hope Clause. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this case in the
Wow. I'm just in awe. This is wow. Yeah, don't come to Canada. You get away with everything here. That's what I've always said. I can go out and murder someone. Not obviously not that I would, but you know what I mean? Like you can, you get away with it. They just don't give a shit. Sorry, I'm just checking links. Oh my God. I'll probably just do it, Autistic, if you're still in here, I'll probably do a live on what you sent me alone because it looks like a lot of information and I think it would just deserve its own live. Um, because this one was about this piece of crap and the victims. So there's still one woman missing, and obviously he won't fess up to where she is. You're still here? Okay. I'm just gonna do a live then on what you sent me, and we can kind of do it together if you want. You can come up on panel if you like. I'm just trying to think when. I know Thursday I have a live. Tomorrow, I don't remember. Probably we can do it Friday. Whenever you're available. I know, right, RB? Like how the I don't get it. Wanna do Friday? Okay. Let's do Friday. 7 PM my time. I think it'll be a good idea because I wanted to do that anyways, and then I completely forgot. Well, you know how I am. I forget everything, so I'm glad you brought it up. We'll do this on Friday at 7 PM. And I'm gonna well, that's the most up-to-date information on Cody for right now. So go sub up to this channel. It's called True Crime Canada. I like her. A lot actually. I'm gonna do another live as well, probably on the weekend, about Peter Woodcock. All right, I'm gonna get off here. I've got to get something to eat. I'm kind of hungry. I feel like having waffles. And I gotta help my son with some homework, so I better go. Uh, Thank you guys for joining me. And if you guys want me to do lives on anything, or you have seriously anything, I do paranormal, true crime, whatever. I agree, Teresa. Exactly. These laws gotta change. But yeah, if you have anything that you want me to cover, let me know. So I don't always know what to do. Meaning like I don't always have a topic. I usually, what's try and do stuff that's in Canada because I am Canadian. Because you guys haven't heard of any of like probably a lot of the stuff. So, anyways, you guys have a great night, and I'll be back tomorrow at 7 with something. I'm not sure who or what. Looks like I think the hunt for the Mad Trapper. Is that what I'm doing? Apparently, I think so. All right, you guys have a good night, and I'll be back tomorrow night. Bye, guys.